Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Jon Hubbard, shareholder and consultant here at Boomer Consulting. And with me today is Marc Staut. Marc, thank you for being on this episode of the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jon.
Absolutely. Marc is our Chief Innovation and Technology Officer. But you have some depth and breadth in other areas as well. And you and I were just chatting before we clicked record on this, that with the new articles we release every month in our Boomer Bulletin newsletter, the topic we are getting ready to discuss is one of our most popular topics even this year. So you really struck a chord with this topic, and that is how to master the art of influence. Okay, how to master the art of influence. So my first question to you, Marc, is explain that. What is the art of influence?
Yeah, I think that when we talk about influence, we're often talking about the difference between influence and authority. And authority, put simply, is where you tell people to do things and you say, because I said so. Maybe because of your title, maybe because of who you are, it may be because of the role that you play, but you tell people what to do, and the assumption is they are going to do it because of your authority. Now, influence is something that is completely different. Influence is an opportunity to sway people, to have them buy into something, and to get them to participate in a shared vision. So thinking about it as less of your titles and much more about how are we going to get something done? How are we going to work as a team to get through this? And it's much more outcome focused than anything else. And I think that in not just in firms, but in a lot of companies, people drastically underestimate the influence that they have. And unfortunately, there are always examples of people who overplay the authority that they have. So we also want to really encourage people to be influencers in their own firms and with their teams.
Yeah. And when we talk to people that, hey, go ahead and describe for us the people you've enjoyed working with the most or working for the most, I think you really struck a chord there. It usually comes down to their ability to influence positive change and not just dictate or be the authoritarian there.
Yeah, change leadership is a topic that is so common right now. They're just looking at the world over the last couple of years, but looking at how fast technology is changing, how fast our clients' needs are changing. There's so much disruption that is out there that has to be looked at as opportunity as well. And how are we going to manage that? And more importantly, how are we going to lead people into that? So your influencers are often people who are in that position of change leadership as well.
Yeah. So I think if we ask most people, hey, would you like to increase your ability to influence others? Most people would say, yeah, absolutely. But most people would also say, but how do you do that in a helpful, constructive way, right? Something that they can actually do. And so, what are some tips there? If someone was wanting to sit down with you, Marc, and kind of say, hey, how can I increase my influence? What would you tell them?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that you can really do that are going to make a difference. The first thing I would suggest people do is that they work across silos and departments. Don't think of your team as being the only people that you're interacting with, whether they report to you or you report to them. People tend to think in those silos. And if we stop and we think about all the different pieces that have to happen, all the different departments and areas and buy-in that you need to accomplish something, you're thinking about different departments, different roles, different levels, different experiences. If you can walk across all of those different things and bring people together, then you're going to be seen as somebody who can really build that consensus and build a strategic vision. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing that you would want to do is really be proactive, showing initiative. Don't wait for things to happen and wait for someone to ask you to go and do something. If you see something that needs to be done, go ahead and tackle it. If you see something that isn't working as well as it should, address it, call it out. but don't just call it out and say, hey, it's broken and walk away. Hey, here are some things that we can do to really make that better. So be solutions focused is another one. Now, something else that I think that plays into having influence isn't just what you do, but it's really looking for feedback as well. And I like to say that is, seek first to understand. Before you start telling people why they should be doing something, stop and understand why they're doing what they are doing. They may have some really good insights or something that you hadn't thought about. So if you seek to understand people and what it is they're trying to accomplish first, and you're an empathetic listener, then you're going to see and be exposed to ideas and solutions that other people probably aren't getting the same insights into. So that's going to give you some real opportunities to make a difference there.
That's great. One term I thought of, and I was taking notes here as you were talking through that, especially with the first one, is kind of being that dot connector. I think you used the term bridge, right? How can I bridge maybe two people together, or two ideas together, or two common goals, together,
Yeah.
which, per your advice, gets you thinking about the interests of others as well. And so I think that's really important.
Yeah. I look at it as a connector, right? Sometimes it's a translator. If there's a lot of different languages, whether it's technical acumen or business acumen, but really being somebody who can be that bridge, can be that connector for people, because you're going to have those insights. Again, active listening, empathetic listening, and being able to look and see what are some of the opportunities that are out there and ways that we can address them in a positive manner.
Yeah. And the second thing you mentioned around, you use the term being proactive and solutions focused. That can be challenging sometimes, because maybe the area you want to be proactive in, right, is an area that maybe you don't feel like is typically within your lane, so to speak. Any guidance or thoughts there?
I think that if you are solutions focused, and if you are somebody who has demonstrated that you're thinking of the firm first, you're not thinking of yourself and what this means to me. I'm not gunning for promotion. I'm not gunning for your job. I'm really trying to improve the things that we're seeing. That gives you that opportunity. Not caring who gets the credit is another great way to have enormous influence, because people will make sure that they're not assuming that you are out for yourself. They'll be thinking of you as somebody who builds a team and who is someone who's going to move things forward for the benefit of everyone that's on a project or in that lane, as you say.
Yeah, I know. And that's really good advice, Mark, because it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, in the sense that if you are being proactive and taking your advice of kind of focusing on the benefit of the business and of others, that's one of the quickest way to actually increase the width of your lane, right? Is by,
Exactly.
which is increasing your influence. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And they build off of each other. You don't maybe want to go out and start tackling some of the biggest projects that are out there in the firm and just inviting yourself into them. That's not at all what we're saying here. But when you do cross into someone else's lane, and you are working in a way that begets trust, right? This is one of the key factors here. You have to build trust. If you're influencing people without trust, there's a term for that. It's called manipulation. And that is not what we're looking for here at all. We're not playing politics. We're really trying to have that respect for others. We're trying to be honest in our interactions. Now, that honesty sometimes means that we speak hard truths, and we call things the way we see them. Whether they're popular or unpopular, we still need to be able to give those opinions. And that actually has value in and of itself. So people are going to come to us and say, you know what, I trust that you're going to give me honest feedback about this. Well, you've just been invited into that lane. And now, as you say, your lane has grown, and you're able to exert more influence on a larger larger stage, and that continues to grow as long as that trust continues to grow along with it.
Good. So you've done a good job of kind of explaining the benefits to the individual, right? And like, because it is an individual journey in the sense of, increasing your influence. That was the point of the question there. But we also know when a firm has individuals, as you have described, there's benefits and results and positive things happening within the firm as a whole. Can you speak to that a little bit
Yeah.
about maybe some of the benefits firm leaders should expect to be receiving from their teams that are looking to increase their influence?
Yeah, I'm going to borrow a term from Keith Ferrazzi. He wrote a book called Leading Without Authority, and the term that he uses is co-elevation. And if you think about how we're all working to raise each other up, how basically it's a team sport, right? We're all trying for success. We're all invested in the success of the firm. That's where you're really going to see things start to take off. You're going to start to break down some of those silos. You'll have better communication, which means better collaboration throughout all the different levels of the firm. And that's where you're going to start to see those exponential gains really take place.
Yes, and Mark, in your title, Chief Innovation Officer as well. So you help lead the innovation here. I know you work with firms on that. And a term I've heard you use, which kind of relates to the connecting the dots, is the intersection of ideas. So when you think about
Right.
the collaboration you're talking about, and if a firm wants innovation to be increased in their firm, a lot of the times it has to do with co-elevation and intersection and things of that sort.
Yeah, and it really comes down to the culture of the firm. You can have a positive influence on a firm's culture, whether you're building a cooperative, collaborative culture or that innovative culture. Having those different people and ideas that intersect, that's where you get those multiplicative ideas. My idea was pretty good, but when I put my idea in front of you, John, and you combine it with your idea, instead of 1 + 1 = 2, now we're looking at 1 + 1 = 5, because we're taking a couple of good ideas in areas that we each have some expertise, and we're combining them together to make something way, way bigger than the originals.
That's good. Um, Mark, this topic obviously is not specific just to the accounting profession, right? Influence is not isolated to the accounting profession. Are you seeing this topic being popular outside of professional services, outside of our kind of four walls, so to speak?
Yeah, very much so. It's a hot topic, and even more so now than it has been in a long time. Partially because so much of the work that is happening, so much of the collaboration that is happening, is hybrid or virtual. We seem to have lost a little bit of our ability to interact with each other. And it's not that it's gone, but we're just a little bit out of practice. And so, in order to do it in a virtual or a hybrid setting, we have to be much more intentional about it. We have to think about, hey, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? How do I want to be seen by other people? How do I want to interact with other people? And how are we going to work together to get those bigger results?
Yep. And anytime we're talking with firms or leaders around hybrid working or remote working, I think the word intention, as you use, continues to come up. Like there has to
Yeah.
be clear intention with whatever it is you're looking to focus on, and influencing, increasing your influence is certainly one of those as well. Mark, if someone wanted to kind of talk with you more specifically about this, because I'm sure we could go on for another full episode around this, what are some ways they can reach you?
Oh, I would love it if anybody wanted to have a conversation about this. Give me your best tips for some of these things. That would be amazing. LinkedIn is a great way to get in touch with me. All my contact information is there. And of course, it's on the boomer.com website. And if you're interested in having a conversation, perhaps about some of the things that are happening in your firm and how Boomer Consulting might be able to help, you can always reach out to one of our solutions advisors and we can get some time set up to chat.
Awesome, Mark. Well, as always, thank you for being on the podcast. And for our listeners, we release new episodes every Tuesday morning. Each week, we like to rotate the topics through a few different areas. This week, we're probably focusing more on leadership, probably, or maybe even growth, depending on how you define that, or even talent. So
And talent.
So this topic is the intersection of multiple things. And so that is great. But the common theme among all those topics is that we believe they are critical to you and your firm's success. So if you like our conversation, go ahead and subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks, Marc.